Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining tonight. This is the first of two information sessions that we will be hosting from the ScaleDEM project. My name is Nils. I'll be moderating tonight's information session. I come from Democracy X, and I'm one of the partners of the ScaleDEM project. So we do have an agenda for tonight that lasts somewhere between 7:30 to 8, depending on how many questions you guys have. But this is the general outline for what we want to get through. Of course, we want to introduce ourselves, get you an idea of who we are running this project, and especially the scaling grounds that you will be that you are interested in applying to. We will be getting a bit of an icebreaker so we can get to know each other, get an idea of who you are, who the people that are interested in our calls are. Um, we'll be giving you more of an introduction to the theory behind ScaleDEM and our approach to scaling and democratic innovations, so that you get an idea of what we really mean when we use the term scaling so much. Of course, we'll be getting into questions on eligibility, selection, and next steps, so you get an idea of the whole process and whether your organization and your profile and project is generally suitable for our calls. We'll end the plenary with allowing for general questions on our project, the ScaleDEM project, and our theory based on what you've been presented to up to this point. And then we will open up two breakout groups, which we will urge you to join, where you can ask questions specific to the piloting and the twinning program, respectively. So we'll go a bit more into detail on the two calls there. Okay, I'm going to introduce the team very quickly. As I said, my name is Nils. My colleague Bjørn is not here tonight, but we come from the organization Democracy X, located in Copenhagen, Denmark. We're joined by our colleagues from Nexus Institute, Ina and Thomas, joining from Germany. You see them waving there at the screen. We also have Camille and Antoine from Mission Publique, who are our project coordinator at ScaleDEM. And we're joined, of course, also by Tiana and Stefan from the European Capital of Democracy, Tiana will be going through the eligibility and selection process. Okay, well, before we get into the program itself, I'm going to give the floor to my colleague Ina to get a bit of an icebreaker going. Uh, the floor is yours, Ina.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Niels, and hi, everybody in this meeting. We are quite overwhelmed by the huge response numbers here, so very welcome. Love to see you here, and we're very much looking forward to receiving your questions and later on your applications. So I would like to start with a short icebreaker. We prepared 4 questions for you to get to know each other a little bit better. And I am starting to share my screen. I would like to propose to you a small Mentimeter survey. In case you don't know what this is, you can scan with your smartphone this link. And soon the presentation will start. I will also post the link into the chat in case somebody doesn't have a smartphone at hand or is unable to scan the barcode. So right now, this is the Menti survey in the chat. And I am very happy to start with the presentation. So everybody shall be able to get on the slides. I see flying thumbs up, so this is a good sign. And I am starting the first question. And this would be, what snacks keeps you going during the last remote meeting of a long workday? It's 6 a.m. and p.m., I'm sorry. And I guess everybody is a little tired, so well, we would love to hear your secret of still staying strong and going strong. I'll give you a couple of minutes or seconds to answer this. I see a big preference to chocolates. Yes, those are people that I really can relate to. Chocolate is also my thing, as is pure willpower. So, directly followed by coffee, I believe. This is something we can all agree on. Thank you. So, for the next question, I would like to ask everybody who is willing to answer and who wants to answer, in what country or countries is your organization located? If you are a consortium or are going with several partners, you can type in several countries. And we have this lovely word cloud. So I see Hungary, I see Germany, Belgium, France, Austria, Bergamo, wonderful. It's just so lovely to have so many people receiving the call for applications, and it's really great to be in a room with you all together. Kenya, Georgia, Armenia, Bulgaria, Netherlands, Egypt, Europe. Yes, literal Europe. Thank you very much. So this is quite a world map that we have here together. This is so great to see. For the next question, I would like to ask you, with what kind of organization are you applying? Are you a university or research organization? Are you a small or middle entrepreneur, like practitioners or company? Are you representing a public authority or public administration? Are you from the civil society? Are you a foundation? Or did nothing that I said represent who you are as an organization? So you would have to put in other. It's not that much unexpected that civil society is members are quite in huge numbers here with us, but it's also great to see that we have a very like a diverse picture of who joins us today and is interested in this call. Thank you. And for the last question of our little icebreaker is something that we would like to anticipate for the breakout sessions. What scaling ground program are you interested in? Are you more for piloting? Are you more for twinning? Or are you unsure? Both, all three options are totally fine. Anybody who is unsure, well, yeah, you can join any of those breakout sessions, and you can also join our second meeting that we will have on 29th of January. So you can join the breakout session of, let's say, piloting first today, and then the session of twinning the next time. Okay. So I see we are slightly in favor of the piloting session. Yeah, but it's going to be very interesting. Awesome. Yes, thank you very much. That was our little icebreaker, our little intro. Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you for participating, for letting us getting you know a little bit more. And now I give back the floor to you, dear. No, I give the floor to Camille, right? Because you are starting to tell us something about the program itself, and I'm going to continue with the presentation.
Yes, thank you very much, Ina. If you manage to make the screen in full screen mode, I think it would be great to
Yes,
please people follow from
I
their
will.
phone and the bus. Yes, perfect. So, hello everyone. My name is Camille. I'm the project coordinator of ScaleDEM, and perhaps just let me start by saying thank you for showing up in such big numbers on a Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. I'm not sure it's a great news that the 6 p.m. session is so popular, whether it means that you are just so curious that you could not wait the second, or unfortunately you have so much work that this is the only moment after normal working hours that you can make it. But either way, we are really grateful, and I'm hoping that you will leave this information session with a little bit more information about, and a bit bigger understanding about what ScaleDEM is about, and especially for those who are unsure, a bit more clarification about which program suits more your needs or the projects that you are currently plotting. Perhaps just to start at the very beginning, for those who haven't scrolled and learned by heart our website, which you do not need to do, I reassure you. What is ScaleDEM? So ScaleDEM is a Horizon Europe project. So in Horizon Europe, for those of you who are extra EU member states, is the main research and innovation program of the European Commission. And it's an EU-funded project that will run for 42 months. We are currently in our first year. And we are 13 organizations. You have 4 of us here tonight with Democracy X, Nexus, European Capital of Democracy, and Mission Publique. But we also have a lot of universities with us, some think tanks, and some science communicators joining, and we are all together trying to understand how can democratic innovation scale. And by democratic innovation, we basically mean every kind of solution, ideas, processes that help citizens get closer to decision making. So we are really, I would say, all interested in participatory democracy, not necessarily deliberative democracy. It's important. I'm stressing it already now. We have a different typology of democratic innovation. I'm not going to develop that now. If you want more information, you can find it on our website. But we're generally interested in understanding how can we scale those mechanisms that we know are working quite well to bring citizens closer to policies, and how can we make them a little bit more mainstream in our everyday life. So that hints to the main objective of our project. So Ina, thank you. The main objective of our project at the end of the 42 months, what we would really like to do is to have built what we call a theory of scaling democratic innovation, which, if you want, is a theory of change. But we want it to be grounded. What do we mean by that? It means that it's not going to come out of thin air. It's going to come out of research, and it's going to come out of some experimentation. Now, the interesting thing with ScaleDEM is that it is not a purely research project, meaning that we are not just going to build it on new research that we are going to be generating. We are doing a little bit of research in ScaleDEM, and that's what we have academic partner with us. But mostly what we are doing is actually reaching out to all the previous EU-funded projects. Here it's written Horizon Europe because there is a lot of very interesting stuff that have been happening for decades, actually. But we're also looking at other types of projects from the past. And we are trying to look back, reach out to these people and try to learn from their experience. How did they manage to have a legacy with some of these democratic innovations that they experimented and piloted? And on top of this investigation of past and current projects, we would also like to test a few hypotheses and enlarge our consortium. And that's what the scaling grounds and actually the twinning and the pilot programs are also for. And it's important to stress it because hence there is a double objective to this twinning and piloting program, which we are calling the scaling grounds. The first one is, of course, well, bringing you in and actually getting to do stuff on the ground, very action oriented. But there is also a little research element behind it. And so by joining a pilot or a twinning program, if you're joining this joint endeavor of the ScaleDEM consortium in building this theory of scaling. So that is also something important a bit to understand where you would be at in the bigger picture of the project. Now, once this is said, of course, we need to understand, okay, you want to build a theory of scaling democratic innovation, but what do you actually mean by scaling? And it's a very good question. Scaling is actually becoming a bit of a trendy word, rightly so, if you want our opinion, in the last years and months. And in our project, we have a pretty broad and generous definition of what scaling is, which is a good news for you, because of course, in order to be eligible and to have good chances of being selected for the pilot or the twinning, it needs to fall within the scope of ScaleDEM, which is all about scaling. Basically, what we have identified a little bit for you to, again, go back a bit to the big picture, we know how to do democratic innovation pretty well. I mean, to some extent, we can still improve in the margins, but broadly speaking, we know how to do them. What we do not really know is how to make sure that they have lasting and really, I would say, impactful legacies on the different actors and in the context in which they have been implemented. And perhaps this is also something that you feel in your daily professional life. We have a tendency to move from one ad hoc project to another without really trying to understand what would be the contextual condition that would allow a good project, a good process, a good democratic innovation to really scale. And by scaling, we actually hence mean different things. So that's hence where I'm coming at. And by scaling, hence you understand it's a little bit the frontiers, going beyond just doing a democratic innovation, but actually trying to what we call scale it out, scale it high, scale it in, and scale it deep. So perhaps we can start by the scaling out because that's the easiest definition, I think. And you will see that intuitively you are certainly thinking about that as well. So Ina, you can press effect. Thank you very much. The scaling out, it's basically reaching bigger numbers or replicability. For example, what we call horizontal scaling out is just about adopting in new locations. I know very well how to do, I don't know, a participatory budgeting or a town hall or an AI app, whatever type of innovation in one place, for example, in a city. Am I able to do it? Do I know how to do it at the regional level? I know how to do it in a sector. For example, in my field, I don't know, with public actors in a municipality, am I able to do it the same way in a private company board or shareholder board, for example, with bankers? I don't know. So it's also moving one thing from another place, if you want, whether this place is sectors, whether it's geography. The vertical, it's actually higher or lower governance level. So it's really city level, regional level, European level, global level, or the other way around. So it's more or less it's very similar to the horizontal one. Transversal, it's a little bit different. Transversal here, we mean we just want to reach a bigger number. So I have, for example, my innovation, and it has perhaps an impact or a legacy with a few people, but it's still very small. And here I'm trying to make it bigger. How I can do that, for example, by I don't know, coupling it with another types of innovation or with some sort of partnership or trying to target different types of population. So also, how do I try? It's basically trying something that we know how to do, but in a different context. That's a little bit the common threads behind what we call scaling out. So that's for scaling out. And perhaps your project is a little bit about that. When I'm explaining already how we define this different scaling dimension, I really recommend you to think, okay, is my project that, or is it rather that, or perhaps it's two or three? Because if you have looked at the application form for the twinning and pilot, you see that you need to say under which scaling dimension your project is falling under. The second is scaling high. So the scaling high dimension is also, I would say, pretty easily understood. but you can, of course, ask questions after in the chat and we can clarify that. It's mostly related to what we would call institutionalization. So it's about how do we consolidate structures within institutions, such as permanent staff, stable budget. It's about the policy uptake, whether we are capable of having a mechanism in place to facilitate the adoption of this innovation outputs into policies or law. And it can also be about formal legal embedding sometimes, depending on the context, with actual mandate, formal rules. So that's usually what academics refer to often to institutionalization or embedding into policy making. And there are also some interesting frontiers to explore and some mechanism or contextual factors here to test in some pilot or twinning projects. The third one is scaling in. Scaling in is, I hope, also something perhaps that you can relate to. And here, when I explain it, perhaps I will go back to what I said before and change and moderate a little bit my claim when I was saying we already know how to do democratic innovation pretty well. Of course, we know how to do most of them decently well, but that does not mean that they are perfect yet. And despite our best claim, there are perhaps still some public that are systematically that we systematically fail to engage, or perhaps we manage to engage them, but that does not necessarily mean that within the process the inclusiveness criteria is satisfied. So this is one example to say scaling in is about still the process quality. Yes, this is perhaps the one where we are the most advanced, but there are still works to be done, notably when it comes to process integrity, internal capacity buildings, inclusiveness. Those are four perhaps obvious ones in our view, but perhaps you can think of more. So the scaling in is more for those of you who are really, I would say perhaps process nerds, if you allow me this expression. I identify as a process nerds, but who really want to really explore perhaps a tiny niche procedural innovation within the innovation to really allow to push perhaps the boundaries when it comes to a certain aspect of the process quality that you think we are not there yet, despite our best claims. So it's really scaling within the process itself. And then there is the scaling deep. And the scaling deep is perhaps the most unexplored scaling dimension and perhaps the blurriest one and more difficult to grasp, but it's certainly an extremely interesting one. It's also about, I would say, the cultural, symbolic, emotional legacy of the process at the micro, but also at the macro level. So scaling deep is about the cultural acculturation of people who run the process, the participants, but also the population more broadly. So it's about whether a process is capable of, for example, trigger strong and lasting positive emotions to create a recognized symbolic narrative around it. Whether in terms of behaviors, it is capable also of, I would say, make it into the political habitus and into the new political normal of the citizens within the community that you decide to engage. And this, in our opinion, within the ScaleDEM crew, is a very interesting dimension to also explore, especially for those of you who perhaps like to work with, for example, with narratives, media, art, culture, who like also to blend a little bit different approach to try to have an impact not just on policy, not just on numbers, not just on the process, but also on really people's hearts, I would say, and in political imaginations. So those are all scaling or four scaling dimensions. Pretty sure there are questions. We're happy to answer to them in the chat. I think, Niels, that we still go through and then we go back to it. But before I give the floor back to you, Niels, perhaps Antoine, would you like to add something? Or do you want to clarify something that needs clarifying? You need to unmute yourself. No?
Sorry, I just saw the problem. Antoine, now you're a co-host, so you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. So I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. Thanks, Camille. No, just a word. It's so what you see here is, of course, what Camille was saying is the first product of our thinking about scaling in those different dimensions. And what Camille was mentioning is that we want to have an iteration. So we want to understand, thanks to the scaling grounds, how that works. Does it work? Does this grid work? What is working best? Where are the problems in order to scale? And that's why this is not a final thinking, but it's our starting point. And we want with you and with the pilots and with the twinnings to go further, understand better, and improve that grid, improve that thinking to also improve the way we can scale democratic innovation. So it's an iterative process too. It's not a final thinking and truth about scaling. But apart from that, nothing to add.
Well, in that case, I'm going to say thanks both to you, Camille, and to Antoine for going into what ScaleDEM is about and the scaling theory. And I'm going to give the floor to Thomas Blanchet from Nexus, who is going to present more on the scaling grounds themselves. So, Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Niels. Do you have the presentation? Is someone present? Okay, now thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see so many people here tonight. It's a very delight to see so much interest in our program. So I will be introducing the two programs in a nutshell because you might have already read a lot of things on our web pages, on a Q&A. We already saw a lot of DOI, so it's wonderful, but I just want to introduce them very briefly to give you an overview about both program. So first, what do we aim at with each program? With the piloting first, we aim at testing bold democratic innovation in the real world. That means we aim to test scaling of innovation which has not been tested yet. We want to test innovations. That means something new, something which is not developed yet, and we want to have like proof of if it's working or not, and we want to offer a kind of environment in order to enable you to test this idea you have in mind. So this innovation should have a specific goal, which would be to reinforce or to strengthen democracy, whether through increasing democratic resilience or deepening citizen engagement. And this innovation participants should test a new way of scaling democratic innovations in a way. On the other way, we have the twinning program, which main aim is to replicate a solution which has been already tested, successfully tested in another environment or context. This could be a new location where we see that an innovation has worked, democratic innovation has worked in a specific location and want to replicate it in another location. It could be another level, like local, regional, national. It could also be an organizational setting. We saw that something has been working in the public administration and we want to replicate it within a private enterprise or something like that. So the level or the environment is quite free to choose. It can be different things. What do we want to do with this training is to bring together mentors, which are experienced organizations or some actors or participants who already have like successfully applied or scaled an innovation with a mentee who would like to think about or to learn more about this innovation and try to replicate it. That. We will do that through different things like active coaching, learning, sharing experiences, and practical result oriented actions that will be facilitated by the ScaleDEM partner. And of course, participants will explore how scaling pathway can be translated, adapted, and sustained across institutional and cultural boundaries and geographical boundaries. So this is what we aim to with the twinning. Next slide, please. Yep, thank you. Now, what are our two programs? I mean, how do we want to reach or to make this aim that we want to achieve realizable? For the piloting first, we will have like a 12 months implementation timeline, or where the different pilots will need to implement their ideas step by step. For that, we will grant like up to 100,000 euros per project, which means as we have like 500,000 euros, we might fund at least 5 projects. It might be a bit more if some interesting projects are asking for less money, but the minimum would be 5 projects, 100,000 euros. As I already said, that we will also support, besides the financial funding, we will be supporting the different pilots through coaching, mentoring, and capacity building with experts in the field of participation. We will also do peer-to-peer coaching with experts from the consortium. We have a lot of expertise in the field of participation and deliberative participation. We'll do mentoring as well, and we will do also experience sharing among pilots. So we will organize, on the one hand, events where people will have the opportunity of sharing their experience, and maybe there are common problems that could be solved or common problems that could be discussed or something like that. And it's always good like to hear what other pilots are doing and what kind of problems do they have, and yeah, to share that. And we will have also like capacity building session in order to bring some topic and to discuss and to present some topic on that needs to be decided. I say that the piloting is about innovation, like testing new innovation, which means risk, which means one of our main aim here is also to create a safe environment to experiment and learn. And our main idea behind that is not like to have a successful pilot, but more or less we want to create like an environment where it is also possible to make failure. The main important thing is really to learn out and to derive like some learnings from the piloting more than like trying to say we were successful. The training program will be on the other hand will finance time and resource for mentors and mentee in each learning community. So we have a community of best practices where some of them want to learn and the other want to teach or to share their experience. For this community, we have like 65,000 euros, and we will fund a minimum of 8 communities. And last point, that the mentors and mentee will be matched by independent jury, which will be set up by the ScaleDEM consortium. Next slide, please. Oops. Thanks. So as we saw, we have a lot of as we saw in the Mentimeter, we have a lot of different organizations who are interested in this program, both programs. We also have a lot of organizations from a lot of different countries, and it's very nice because this is what we want. What we want to fund. We are kind of open to a lot of different organizations who might apply. On the one hand, we would like to see like organization both from public or private sector, but also third sector. We saw a lot of civil society organization here. They are very welcome to apply. We're also open to consortia. So if you want to have like a group of organizations working together, there is no problem, but we also are welcoming single organization or single applicants, depending on the nature of the application. We would also found like experienced democratic innovators, like people or organizations who already have like a strong expertise within one of the domain of democratic innovation. But we also want to welcome newcomers or players from other fields, because we think it would be nice to get some fresh knowledge from outside the field of democratic innovation coming and maybe breaking, like pushing the boundaries of the field further. So we will also love to get application from different fields like education, culture, media, policy making, digitalization, I mean, etc., etc. We are open to a lot of different contexts, like diverse democratic topics, different regions, and different scaling approaches. But we have to say that we have like a kind of limitation that our regions or eligibility criteria is in line with Horizon Europe application. So will be funding countries from Horizon Europe program and associated countries. But otherwise we are happy to get application from different countries and regions. And last but not least, we aimed at experienced practitioner. We already have a project or ID and wish to scale it. I spoke from newcomers or experienced democratic innovators, but we want to have like applicants who already have an idea, a clear idea about what they want to test or what they want to replicate. And we are not funding like people who want to think about an idea, but we want to have concrete results in a way and proof of implementation, whether it is testing on or replicability. And I think this is a main point, and I will close with that and give the floor to Niels, I guess. Thank you very much.
Well, I can take the floor very shortly and give it immediately on to the next speaker, who is Tiana from the European Capital of Democracy, who will be speaking more on the eligibility criteria and selection process.
Thank you, Niels. Just to remind everyone that, of course, all of this information, you can also find it at the Q&A documentation on our website, and the presentations will be shared as well. So to start off with the criteria selection, so in the ScaleDEM program, all applicants are first assessed using the 5 main. Niels, if you could just show the text. Yes. All applicants are first assessed using 5 main evaluation criteria. Each criterion is scored from 0 to 5, which would be the excellent proposal. And proposals must reach the minimum threshold for each to be fundable. So for the first one, it will be relevancy. So this would mean how clearly the objectives and the target groups are defined and how well the proposal is built on the ScaleDEM learning. And this would weight 30%. The second one is impact, and this entails the extent of which the project addresses the real democratic challenges, creates value for communities, and how can it be replicable or scaled, and this carries 25%. The next one would be team quality, the experience, the skills, the motivation, and diversity of the team. This also includes a good track record of sharing results, and this weights 25%. The next one would be the justified resource allocation. So this would mean whether the budget is realistic and whether it aligns well with the work plan and the expected results. And this weights 15%. And the last one would be sustainability, which is the likelihood of your project results, how it will continue beyond the ScaleDEM funding, and how would you manage to have all of this ongoing work, partnerships, and networks extended. So this criteria guides the jury throughout the process, and it ensures us and the jury that there is a fair and transparent and comparable assessment of all proposals. And now we will move on to the eligibility check. So as Niels mentioned in the first part of the presentation, that ECOD is also responsible for the eligibility check. So this means verifying basic requirements for the open calls. This would mean country eligibility, organization type, completeness of the application, and required declarations. Please note that ineligible or incomplete applications cannot be evaluated. So please be mindful of that. Each eligible applications are then assessed by an independent jury. So this SUD has nothing to do with the assessment. We just have to do with this, forming the jury. So each jury has its, we bring together members of the ScaleDEM Scientific Advisory Board and User Advisory Board, random selected citizens, and consortium partners. So these are the people that will, at the end of the day, decide which proposal meets the criterion. And then based on the scores, the jury establishes a short list. The short list applicants may be invited to a short online interview for the twinning program. These interviews will also help shape strong and viable mentor-mentee coalitions. And finally, the jury agrees on the final ranking and the selection list. If the proposals receive very similar score, then aspects such as the geographical balance may be used as a tiebreaker. All applicants are informed of the outcome, and a summary of results and statistics will also be published on the ScaleDEM website. And then this reaches us to the end, the timeline. So as you know, the call of the proposals opened last month, or as you could see, last year as well, 1st of December 2025. During this time, we also have the declaration of intent opened until 31st of January. This is where you could outline your project idea and the scaling challenges you want to address. And then we will answer any questions and provide feedback to help you prepare a better and stronger application for the most suitable program. But please be mindful that you would have to first fulfill the survey regarding the declaration of interest, and then we can give you a proper feedback. Then the application deadlines close on the 31st of March, and the notification of results are around July 2026. And then the sub-grants agreements will be finalized and signed in September 2026. Both programs will kick off with a joint in-person meeting in Cascais, Portugal, the current European capital of democracy, in autumn 2026. And then we will conclude the final in-person meeting in the European capital of democracy in late 2027. Then, Niels, I will give you the floor to conclude.
Thank you very much, Tiana. If we could go on to the next slide, actually, I will be giving the floor to everybody in this meeting. I'm going to have to ask Tiana that you allow people to eventually unmute. I'm not going to ask everybody to unmute, just that you have the chance to do so. And I'm going to ask for you to either raise your hand virtually, as I see some of you already doing, or ask your question in the chat. And I see some of my colleagues are already very actively answering some of your questions. But for now, I'll be taking questions from virtually raised hands. And I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Elke, to ask.
Yes, thank you. I had a technical problem earlier on, so I don't know if you talked about that, but I wonder, do you have criteria about concerning the partners, like the kinds of partners that are eligible? Like if we were like an NGO in Germany, we had a format for listening, deep listening to people's concerns and bringing citizens together and so on, that we would like to scale. Are there any specific criteria who could be eligible partners? Like, does it have to be somebody from a different country, from a different, I don't know, can it be in the same country, or is there any kind of, set of criteria that you have around this?
Well, that's a question that can encompass a lot, but we do have some eligibility criteria that countries participating do have to be EU member states or associated
Yes, I've
countries.
seen this.
In terms of the kinds of organizations we're
I don't
open.
hear you though. Mist, scheiße, jetzt hast du dann deinen Sound ausgemacht.
I think that maybe on your end. Did we lose you, Elsa? Okay, I'm going to ask my colleagues to just write just a written answer to Elsa in the chat, and then I'm going to go on to the next. Uh,
Yeah, I had a tech issue
oh,
here because we're two people in the same room and we have an echo, so we need to mutually on and off put the sound on and off. So I'm not sure. Did you hear my question?
I did hear your question. Can you hear
Okay, but I
me?
didn't hear any answer, so maybe that's
Okay.
because I have.
Well, we encourage international collaboration. We don't
Mhm.
enforce it,
Yeah.
and different kinds of organizations are welcome. As it says here, it can be public, it can be private, it can be NGOs, companies, administrations. We're open to most here.
So it would be preferably like somebody from a different country, and would Switzerland be eligible, or is that because it's not EU? Is
Uh, okay, I don't have the memory of the EU associated countries. I'm gonna have to
Sorry,
refer
what was
to
the question? Switzerland is eligible. We're
Switzerland is
tracking.
eligible.
Yes, yes.
because
Yes.
in regular EU projects you have to have a very, very good, argument for having Switzerland in, otherwise they don't go.
Maybe I could ask some of my colleagues to link to the document we have in the FAQ, which
Yeah.
says that it's EU member states and associated countries. So you can
Okay.
see a list of eligible countries there.
Yes, and Switzerland has recently signed an agreement with retroactive effect. So
Okay.
normally you are eligible. We have clarified that with our project officer already.
Great. So we could check that out. And is it possible also to have like two German organizations in two different places? To one learn from the other, for example?
Yeah. There's no
Okay.
limitations on that.
And preferably you have several learning organizations with one sort of teaching organization. Is that right?
If you're referring to the twinning program, then
Yes.
that would be one mentor, preferably with several mentees, up to 4.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we're gonna move on because I see a lot of virtual hands. I hope this comes up on my screen chronologically. If not, I'm sorry. But the next person I would like to invite is Virginia.
Hello, thanks for the presentation. Amazing. Quick question on what can be funded with the grant. I saw that infrastructure costs cannot be included, so I would like clarification on what infrastructure means. For example, renting a venue is something that can be funded or not, and what do you mean with infrastructure costs?
Well, that also differs between the twinning and the piloting programs. For twinning, we do uh, uh, we cover expenses related to the resources that you spend in terms of hours, and also direct resources that are necessary for the twinning program itself. For the projects, maybe I would invite Ina or Thomas to join to clarify.
Can you repeat the question, please? I was busy answering in the chat.
Very quickly, is what I read that infrastructure costs cannot be covered. So I wanted a clarification on what do you mean with infrastructure costs? And for example, renting out a venue is considered an infrastructure cost or not?
What is considered?
Renting
Renting
out a
a
venue.
venue.
No, this is not an infrastructure cost. I guess it applied to what it's generally said in some other application form. So we do not found bricks. We just we mainly found brains. So we don't get like we will not pay for infrastructure. I mean, to be there in roads or big things like needs to be funded. Like we want to concentrate on the participatory process, and of course, for participatory process, for instance, events room are necessary. I mean, this is not belonging to what
Yeah,
we mean with
those
infrastructure is much bigger.
those are direct costs, Virginia.
Yeah,
So those are
exactly.
fine. And of course, for the pilots, it's going to be quite a lot of
Mhm.
direct costs.
Yeah.
Thanks, Virginia. We're going to move on to Etienne.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the informative session so far. You said that you were open to funding a wide variety of initiatives. Personally, I was wondering whether um, actual digital tools were among the kind of projects that you would fund. So if you would like, I can give a bit of context. Um, if you think about it currently, our digital civic participation is limited to platforms that are privately owned, right, by big tech. And there, the content and the visibility of the content is distorted by opaque algorithms. And so the organization that I'm representing today, called Technostructure, is building a free open source encrypted platform for community organizing. Think of a democratic Discord, Reddit, and maybe Twitter combined. Is this the kind of thing that ScaleDEM is interested in, or not so much? Thank you.
I'm going to direct that question towards Camille.
Yeah, sure, I can answer. Thanks for the question, Etienne. So this relates to what I mentioned, but I didn't have a slide for that, is the type of democratic innovations. And I stressed we're not going to be looking, and we're not interested only in, I don't know, citizen assemblies or deliberative. Of course, digital innovations are included into that. So I'm not gonna give a particular feedback on your individual proposal, because if we do that for 300 people, we're gonna not gonna have time. But yes, of course, nowadays in 2026, it would be kind of awkward to pretend that tech is not there. So I can only encourage you to apply. If you want more detailed feedback, submit a declaration of interest. We do our best then to give a bit more qualitative feedback to everyone. But I can, of course, and this is valid for everyone, generally speaking, you can also have a project that mix different types of innovation. So, for example, digital tools plus more on-site physical kind of tools. So it doesn't have to be just one or the other. Often these are overlapping or mutually reinforcing, especially since we're talking about scaling here. Yeah.
Thanks, Kimmy.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to move on to Luca.
Yes, hi, and thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Wealth Cup project, and we're aiming at developing a network of citizens assemblies across Europe. And we were thinking of actually applying to this to the training program, maybe with a coalition of actors, and some of them will be mentors, and we would be mentees. So I was wondering, how is this to be configured in the sense of like how many people can there be in this coalition, and what do you mean by learning community? You said 8 would be financed. Can we constitute a whole learning community? And how many people would constitute that? Thank you.
Right, thanks for the question. So a learning community in itself would be one mentor combined with a range of up to 4 mentees. And of course, that could be different organizations. And the purpose of each community would then be to tackle the scaling gaps and issues that the different mentees are facing, based on the expertise of different mentees, but especially the experience that the mentor has with scaling democratic innovations. We are going to finance a minimum of 8 scaling twinning communities or learning communities. Does
And
that answer me? Yeah.
yes, I would just like to do a follow-up question then. If we, for instance, apply with 2 or 3 organizations that could mentor us and we are the mentees, is that compatible since you only talked about one mentor? And what will happen then? Will we be paired with, if selected, with other people that might benefit from those mentors? How do you do that? How do you do the matching?
We do a matchmaking, the selection jury does a matchmaking between different mentors and mentees. But as mentees, you can you're able to point towards potential mentors or solutions that you would like to be paired up with to guide us. And you can also apply it as a on behalf of a consortium in and of itself.
But as a consortium, will we stick together or can we be split up during the matching?
Camille, can I ask
I think
direct that?
yeah,
Yeah.
we can discuss more into that for the twinning, Luca, if you want. But there are 2 scenarios for the twinning. There is the first, actually there are 3. There's a scenario that I don't know, for example, a freelancer. I have already done that, and I'd be willing to help others scale because I think I can be useful, and you can apply individually. There is the experience of I have a great project. It's gonna happen anyway, but actually I wouldn't mind, having extra resources to brainstorm, learn, and eventually scale it because it's true that it's something I have not thought about, and I would be willing to be in a community of like-minded people who are facing similar issues, and we have resources to make this happen. And then you can also apply individually, and then you can choose to apply already as a already formed full twinning, so already with the mentor and the four mentees. And if that's the case, well, you might say, no, I don't want externals. I just want to be among us. And if we select your project, you need to be very clear on that. Or you might say, well, we might be open to having perhaps one or two externals who actually had very similar ideas, but are loners for now. And but then this is the meet and match. So for the twinning, it's not gonna be we have decided for you. You need to say yes afterwards, and you have a right to refuse to some extent. But the idea of this is also that ideally you are open to meeting new people. But there are different configuration on how you can apply for the twinning.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we are also making it, I know it's a bit confusing, but it's also because we want to be surprised and be also a bit open to what might come up. And we don't want to have something super rigid.
Thanks for the question, Luca, and thanks for clarifying, Camille. The next one on my list is Martin.
Yes, hello. Thank you for organizing. And Niels, nice to see you again. We met in the fall. My question is, so I represent a consultancy company, and we're thinking of applying with a project that we would do in collaboration with a public authority. And so the question is, what kind of level of commitment would you expect us to have from the public sector partner? Would that be a letter of interest, some sort of formal engagement commitment? And also related to that is um, about the resource allocation. So would it, for example, help the application if we had some co-financing agreed upon by the partner? Yeah, or sort of in general, the resource allocation, from the way I understand it, is that as long as it's justified, you can apply for any amount, and that doesn't change your chances. Is that sort of, do I understand that right? And then one final question is, does it matter whether you are applying as a limited liability company versus a nonprofit, or is it all the conditions are being the same, as long as you're one of the types that are within the project? So thank you.
Thank you for the question, Martin. I assume this is directed at the piloting.
Oh, yes, sorry, I didn't say
Yeah.
that. Yes,
So
piloting.
I'm going to direct that to Thomas or Ina.
Yeah, I'm
Also, I'm
sorry.
very sorry.
I was busy answering in the chat. Can you quickly repeat your question, please?
Yes, so we're as a private consultancy, we're thinking of applying with the public sector. The question is, what kind of level of engagement or commitment is expected or would be appreciated that we had from them? Just a letter of interest or something more formal? And how are you looking at the financing issue? Applying fully through this project versus having some agreed upon co-financing scheme? Would that aid? Those sorts of questions.
Can you correct me? But I think we are kind of open depending on the construction you want. I mean, if it is, I don't know, a public organization which needs funding from us, so you need to have a kind of detailed funding of both organizations. If it's just like as we do basically in a Horizon project, so if it's like a punctual, very, very punctual involvement, LOE would do. And what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry, I'm kind of.
Yes, the sort of level of commitment. Sorry, couldn't find the word.
No, I know the level of commitment. I
how,
answered
yeah.
it. It was more the co-funding, the co-financing. I think this could be depending on
Oh,
the
yes, yeah.
co-funding could be also possible. I guess if it fits with the frame of your project and your idea and the consortium. So
Hmm. Okay. And the final question, a quick one, was does it matter whether you apply as a limited liability company or nonprofit? It makes no difference as long as it's one of those that are allowed.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Next one on my screen is Stefano.
Yeah, thank you very much, Neil, and thanks for the useful call. Yeah, I'm basically working on participatory budgeting, which is, I mean, for someone is a democratic innovation, for some others are all democratic innovation. I read that you mentioned participatory budgeting among the democratic innovation, but the question is, I mean, one of the ideas that we have is to basically translate this methodology in the renewable energy communities, right? So because the right context. So how would you configure this kind of project as a pilot because we are just moving in different framework, or as a twinning because it's something already on practice that needs to be at least advised? And second, I mean, the other idea is to change totally, I mean, to test a totally different approach of participatory budgeting, which is can be somehow crazy innovation, you know, which is nothing, you know, it's not written anywhere and has to be text. So in this case, what would you assess this kind of innovation? Something too crazy to be tested, or you know, I mean, what's the level of innovation according to your criteria? And finally, are you going to, I mean, can we fund some improvement of software platform, private software platform within this project in order to be adapted to the innovation changes or context? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I'm going to start off myself and then I'm going to direct it to the rest of you. But so scaling out by taking a democratic innovation into a new field can be done, I suppose, both as twinning and piloting, but that would depend on the project you've got going on, whether there's an existing project idea that kind of conceptualizes a new way to scale out, so how to translate it to a new field, or whether you do have a project where you want to apply participatory budgeting, but you're facing this scaling out gap, and you're looking for uh, a mentor who has tried something similar. I would say first of all, it really depends on the kind of project you would apply with. That sort of guides your uh, the proposal you should make. But I see it as based on the description you give, it could go both ways, or you could do it in any of the two ways. Um, does anyone want to add to that first answer?
Maybe one thing I would, Stefano, I would see it as more as a piloting than a twinning, because you try to extend something that is working somewhere in another context. You try to plant it somewhere else. So I would go for piloting in that case. And maybe on the craziness of the innovation, yeah, if you manage to do it with trees and scale participatory budgeting to insect and trees, it's nice because that's a lot of innovation. No, but more seriously, yes, you can. I mean, it's the goal is that very luxury. When we planned the project, it was really because we know it from our own organization how difficult it is to find funding for that kind of more exploratory on the frontier processes. We all of us in the consortium have experienced that. So we are thinking we need to give the luxury and that space. And Niels, you were saying that safe space to experiment and go further. That's the goal of what we are doing here. Of course, there are all the formalities and all also the security and the conditions you have to. But the ideas themselves, we need to try to push further what has been done.
Yeah, what about platform? Software platform for funding can be used for improving. I mean, are those infrastructures or not?
I'm going to ask Camille to clarify, but it's we're not the call is not there to invest in like a platform as a private platform as such. No, it's about the scaling dimension. Tomato, you want to add?
We already had this question
Okay.
asked per mail, and I mean basically it depends. Just improving a platform is not like you need also to test and to have like kind of pilot where you implement something. So just like development costs wouldn't do if you have like a small things you want to improve and then test it like in real life context. This could on the other way apply, but just like software development would be
Of course.
difficult to be funded.
Yeah, of course. Part of it, of course. Yeah. So it's the answer is yes. I mean, as long as it's as a part of the budget to adapt.
If it's a scaling action where you develop a tool, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for the question. Next person on the line here is Fabienne.
Yes, good evening, and thanks, Niels, and to the ScaleDEM team. I just had a couple of clarification questions. The first one is regarding the use of funding, especially under the piloting program. Is it possible to use funding for staff time as well as operational cost? So if we're focusing, of course, on the scaling process. And is it possible to include overheads in staff time cost, so the administrative cost or not? Sorry, very practical question. And the other one, also a clarification question. I understood from the presentation that any project doesn't have to cover the 4 dimensions of scaling. I think rather it's intended to focus more strategically on 1 dimension to achieve results, I think as was mentioned previously. So that's the clarification question also. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to answer the last part first. So we can't expect you to finish all scaling to address all scaling dimensions in 1 project or in 1 twinning process. It's of course important to be mindful that some actions or some concepts or projects can address several dimensions at the same time. But we don't expect you to be able to cover all 4 of them, no. For the question of the use of funding and piloting, whether hours spent can be covered as well as overhead, I'm going to direct to Thomas and Camille.
Yeah, perhaps Stéphane, you know about the overhead. For the personal cost, Fabien, for sure, yes. I was just answering a question to Sylvie as well, more or less on that. The criteria on budget that Tiana mentioned here, what we want to be reassured that you know what you're doing in terms of financial management. So we need to make sure that the resources are allocated in such a way that you'll be able to carry out this project properly. And among that, direct cost, personal cost are included. Now for the overheads, this is the one question when with these EU projects where I always have a doubt, so I need to double check that unless Stefan knows. But I don't want to say something wrong now. But I can come back to you. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get back in terms of the overhead question. Of course, we'll update our FAQ as well, and with new information as well.
And if I
So
may, just because I have the floor, for the
okay.
question on the scaling dimension, of course, you can make a strategic choice to say, okay, I want to really focus on that one because I think, I don't know, that's the frontier that really I'm hitting against, and it's been 4 years and I can't nail it. This is my opportunity. I want to focus on it. But as Niels was mentioning, often behind a scaling dimension, there is a relation to one or to others. So we're also interested in how it might relate to another, so the causality link perhaps between the main one that you focus on and some of the others, because they all spill over, of course. So just also another little insights of things that we would like to see in your proposal if you manage. But
Thanks, Camille. We're going to move on to Morgan.
Thank you for the presentation. So my name is Morgan. I'm representing a youth NGO in Paris, and I had two questions. The first one is to know whether or not a mobility can be included in during the project.
Mobility in what sense?
Like if we plan on organizing mobility somewhere else in Europe with the targeted group for our democratic innovation. Or you
you
are
mean a
focused.
sort of travel trip or fellowship for?
Yes.
You can suggest if what you are proposing is something more of a capacity building program within, for example, a twinning. Yes, this kind of cost would fall, I guess, under direct costs. And you could include, if you want a bit more personalized feedback, I invite you to submit a declaration of intent so we can have the context.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I think it would be rather more interesting in the declaration of interest, but I wanted to ask the question, maybe some other people
Of
here
course.
had the same idea. And about the declaration of interest, so as I understood, of course, this is not the final proposition. This is our main idea that we are suggesting, and you are probably going to make us some suggestion to enhance it, or like can we submit various ideas and you choose the one that are the most relevant?
I suppose you can. I mean, you're allowed to make more proposals, so you can make more declarations of intent as well. And what we offer is a qualitative feedback from the those of us that are in the room here from ScaleDEM.
Okay,
But
thank
maybe
you.
on that, Nils, there was a related question about if you can be in two or more proposals, and in theory, of course, you can be. The point I was making is the jury may want to focus on diversity of projects and partners. So maybe you may want to focus on one, but that's not up to us to decide. And if you are in three proposals and they are the three best, then you will be in three projects. But that's the difference between the theory and the practice, and the jury will have the last word on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. We're nearing the end of virtual hands. We're going to give it on to Bujor. Sorry if I'm butchering your name here.
Alina, it's easier.
That's your last name, Alina.
Yes. I have a question. If my idea is, from my point of view, innovating here in my area, it must be an innovation idea on the Europe level, because from my point of view, it's innovation here.
I mean, it's of course in your description we're going to take into consideration the context in which you're doing your project. Of course, as long as we also see what the scaling dimension you're addressing is here. So it's not only about the democratic innovation, but about scaling as well. But what constitutes democratic innovation varies, and we do have an overview of the kinds of families we see, but yeah, context matters in the assessment here.
And it says in the Git that we can't take as an action in a cultural way, and I can do that. I did that in my activities. So in what way we can put cultural in this project? How do you see cultural?
Are you talking about the scaling deep cultural
Yeah.
embeddedness? And you're asking for an example of what that could be?
Yes.
I mean, there's linking democratic innovations to cultural institutions that in your region or in your nation, you know. And there's linking democratic innovations with uh, uh, cultural initiatives to kind of create narratives or uh, mm, like make it a part of like an area, like the story of an area.
And the team involved in project. It must be in experienced in European projects or experienced in their field of action.
You would have to have experience within, you know, democratic innovation or like practice of democratic innovation, and then of course you would have to be an EU country or an EU associated country. It does not necessarily have to be EU funded projects that you have experience with.
Like lawyers can be in the team.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the way of different kinds of organizations joining, even regardless of
Uh,
the type.
And if you don't like the declaration of interest, and you consider that the idea is not suitable, we can improve our idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the declaration of intent is not going to affect your proposal chances.
Thank you very much.
Of course. And let's see who else has questions. Christina is next.
Yeah, thank you. Um, I also had this question about the possible number of proposals, especially if it's possible that one organization makes an application for one twinning and one piloting. So is it acceptable? Or at the end, one organization will only get one project. My other question was in the piloting, what kind of outcomes are acceptable or preferred? Because it's 12 months is quite a short time. If we experience, for example, we have an already experienced participatory process, right? And we would like to improve or scale one part of this process together with another partner, let's say. Of course, we will not be able to prove the real impact of this because 12 months is very short. But we can develop a method, we can describe it, we can maybe do short experiences, but that will not be forcefully a full experience. So where is it acceptable, or do you have any advices to this?
I am going to answer the first question, which is that you can submit an application both to the twinning program and the pilot program. Camille, could you just clarify what happens if both the twinning program and the pilot program application are rated rather high?
Yes, so it's a question that came several times. So for everyone to hear, like this, it's done. You can apply and try your luck to both programs. That being said, if the juries have selected both of your applications, so both the twinning and the program as the winning application, you can only get one. No, this applies if you are the project coordinator. Okay? We cannot give money twice to the same organization if this person is the coordinator, for the reason that we really want to have as many people as possible beneficiating from this opportunity, and we also want to have as much geographical diversity and sectorial diversity. So that for this simple reason. Now, if, for example, you have one and you are selected in the twinning as coordinator, but in the other one, in the piloting, you are just a more minor project partner, this is not disqualifying you from either de facto, but remember that one of our criteria, and especially if we have types, is the diversity of application that can play against you. If we have a type between you, a project, and we know that you have already won another, and we prefer this application to this one, then we might make a call or ask you to make the call. So that might happen. And if for some reason still these two projects are amazing, and despite the inconvenience of you being twice, you can win, but the chance, I would say, are pretty thin, realistically.
Thanks, Camille, for clearing that up. And for the other part of your question, Christina, I'm going to direct it to Ma about the expected outcome of a 12-month pilot project.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I can understand your concern or your question, because 12 months is very short. So I think as soon as you have like identified a very an issue you want to address or a problem you want to address, and to have like a concrete project where you test something, even if it's in the context of experimentation, I think it's okay. And concerning the outcome, I mean, as I said in the presentation, we don't want like you to have like high impact or successful implementation. We want to learn from your experimentation. So if you are able to show that you can derive some interesting learnings in order to push further the field of democratic innovation, I think by testing or experimenting, I think it's more than enough. And we won't, in terms of outcome, we won't expect you to produce like a huge report or something like that. It will be rather like a short report based on, okay, I've tested that and I have learned that to that, and maybe like it fails on that point. And as I said again, a failure is also like maybe the best way to learn and to improve. So we want to offer the possibility to fail as well. So yeah.
So
I hope I
you
could
are
understand.
sorry, you are mostly interested in the process itself, right? How it goes, how we plan it, how we do it.
Not obligatory. I mean, we are open to that. We are interested in like trying to push forward to test something new and to have like proof of testing and learnings derived from that. So and then it's depending, as you say, it's one year. So we might not be able to. I mean, if you implement, I mean, if you send an application with something, a huge process, which in theory takes more than 1 year, so it might fail in terms of realization. So we might say, okay, interesting project, but it's not possible to do that in 1 year. So you have to adapt to the constraint of the funding program. But I think, as I said, like really like a scaling issue or an issue, you want an innovative idea you want to test, and like a proof of results, like proof of testing, I would say, where we see, okay, you have tried to experience or implement that, and the learnings you derive from that.
Thanks, Thomas, for clarifying. Okay, we have two more questions, three more questions. Görkem first.
Hi, I'm representing Newsbridge, a student-led community from Turkey, Gelişim College. We're planning to apply as a mentee for the twinning program, and I have two quick questions. So we want to involve a large student team to increase our impact. So how will a large team affect our evaluation for team quality and resource allocation, especially since the total budget for the community is limited to 65,000 euros? And while the guide says the community can have up to 4 mentee organizations, is there specific limits on how many students can participate within our single school?
We haven't made for like a formal uh, uh, limits to how many people can join from one organization to the meetings that the twinning community forms. Of course, I mean, you would have to be able to partake in virtual meetings, and you would have to be able to contribute in a way that makes sense to the community as a whole. So I'm not quite sure what we're talking about in your context. I've been thinking about two people from each organization to have some kind of uh, anchoring, but of course, more people can join the online meetings if you have like a more of a larger group. In terms of funding, that would finances are going to be covered, covering both the mentor and mentees of a twinning community, and 65,000 euros being the cap. Uh, I mean, a lot of people joining from one organization is going to be to make it difficult to cover the costs. So it's also about your context and the way that you choose to make your application, I would suppose here. But of course, if people just want to join the meeting to follow along, they're welcome to do so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
can I just add there, because I think beyond schools, it's a question that might be useful, for example, for those of you who are network organization and are thinking about applying to the twinnings with different of their members. For example, if you have a city, of course, the city and the school or the university, if you want, is the unit. And you might have three people within one unit. I mean, it can be three colleagues of the same municipality, and they count as, Florence or Brussels. And same for your school in that respect. So it really trickles down. Um, so I, I mean, if that was the question, it's not at all a problem.
Thank
Everything is pretty open but you need to be able to explain that and convey it clearly in the application. That's all.
you. Okay.
Thanks for the question. We're moving on to Christina.
Hi, hello from Bucharest, Romania, from behalf of CET Romania Association. I have a question concerning the consortium. Our project idea can be implemented by ourselves as a single applicant by two organizations from at national level, but also from by an organization by us from Romania and another partner that from a different country that has previous expertise and can help us. My question is there any constraints on the nationality of the members of the consortium, or can we do it European wide? Thank you.
It can definitely be European wide. We encourage international collaboration, so no limitations to that at all.
Thank you so much, and good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina, for the good energy. I have one last virtual hand currently from Hydra.
Yes, that's right. But however, I saw that someone participating, Birgit Schreiber, I think her handwriting is not working, so she painted it on the paper and was holding it in the camera, and it's a longer time for her to. So I would make space for Birgit to ask her question because I know it's a long time she tried to raise hand.
Thank you very much for making me aware of that. I can't see all of you, unfortunately. But let's please give the floor to Birgit. If you
Thank you,
are able
Nicola,
to.
for
There you
that.
are.
Indeed, my little hand has disappeared, and anyway, that's quite right. I usually find it, and here it's gone. A quick question. I represent a organization in the southern part of Africa. We're in the SADC region, that is 16 countries south of the Congo, and we involved in capacity building and democracy building in universities. So our avenue is usually universities, and we use them as multipliers, and they become communities, and we call them community of practice. Are we eligible from where we're sitting, or do we need to partner with a university or with an organization in Europe? That's my first question. The second one is, do you receive, sorry, we'll do it. No, those the other two questions were resolved in the meanwhile.
Okay. Well, I'm unsure about specific countries.
I can answer if
Yeah.
you, because I think it's a question also for others who are not Europe based. So ScaleDEM is a project that is open. The scaling grounds are open to countries beyond EU member states. So there is EU member states. There is all the countries that are called associated countries to Horizon Europe. They're usually the one that can apply all the time to Horizon Europe calls, for those of you who are familiar. So that includes Turkey. There was a lot of questions in the chat for that. And that includes nowadays Switzerland and the UK again, since recently. But it also includes Norway, for example, and others. But it also includes this one, a certain amount of countries that the EU calls low and middle income countries. Right? So there is an annex on our website. I've shared it in the chat. We can share it again. And here you have a list of countries that classify as low and middle income. I'm sorry, I'm saying that in brackets because I don't want this to be interpreted wrong. It's not my wording. And it lists a certain number of countries from often the global south, again in brackets. So that exclude, for example, the US. The US is not in there. There was a US organization in the chat. But there is South Africa. I double checked. I'm going to check again now because with all this question, I'm losing it. But South Africa is included among other African nations and also Caucasia, South Caucasus and Balkan countries. Now, I'm just stopping us here because I think it's important to say for those countries, in the scaling grounds, there is a certain amount of physical activities in Europe that are planned. So unfortunately for you, you have kind of extra travel costs. Which I'm sorry, there's not much we can do about that. You can, of course, in your budget, send only one person, of course, not the entire team, but also for you to be aware that there is that. But in the evaluation, of course, we will not hold that against you, but you will need to make a sound budget despite that constraint.
No, that's fine. So in our consortium, in the association, we've got members living in Europe, but our activity is in the SADC region.
Okay.
So that's perfect. Thank you very much. That was very clear. Thank you very much for allowing me to ask a question before Hedra.
Thank you, Hedra, for making us aware of that. And thanks for the question, Birgit. Hedra, back to you then.
No worries, thank you. Also, a question on concerning consortiums. We are Think and Do Tank for Social Innovation here in Germany, and we have like partners in the culture and creative industry, and also a civic citizens association that would participate in the project. And I was wondering, since we're talking about democratic innovations, is there some kind of a preference for the jury or something that makes more sense in the application for which of these consortium partners to be in the lead? However, usually we are the one in the lead, but I'm not sure if we're talking about democratic innovation. It maybe a Think and Do Tank for Social Innovation might be not very, I don't know, maybe it doesn't make sense for the jury. For us, it does a lot, but I'm just asking.
Maybe on that, I mean, it depends on how you roll out the activities and the program, because if you are in the lead, but a lot of work is done by your partner in democratic innovation or at the same level, then the jury will see that there is a balance, and it's so I don't know, but I think it's not a problem if you are putting the application, but then you explain how it works, and then it's clear.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just mention that this is also linked to how the jury will evaluate your proposal? One of the reasons why we also do these calls and we're also so open is because a lot of the reason why democratic innovation do not scale is because we have a bit of an endogeneity problem. We always kind of have often the same people, and we need creativity from perispheric field of action, of social action, social innovation, and also different actors who bring also a lot of different expertise, very transferable. So that is not going to be held against you for sure. What needs to make sense in the criteria under team evaluation is what I was also saying in one written answer. We need to, not us, I'm not going to be evaluating, but the jury needs to be reassured that the team that you have brought together is capable of carrying this project. So based on your project, who is the best person to coordinate that? And it's only on this basis that it's going to be evaluated, not because the organization is a social innovator, tech organization, or whatever, or think tank.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to Fabien.
Yes, thank you. And I forgot to say earlier that I was affiliated to a French CSO working on consultation and citizen participation. And we just have a couple more questions. Maybe in the case of the piloting program, we are wondering whether the partners, so for instance, local authorities or other types of local actors with whom we work, should they be identified and somehow formally integrated into the proposal before submission as associate partners, or whatever we call them. And the other question was more related to results, and we were wondering whether there should be a results framework with indicators and maybe judgment criteria that should be part of the project, of the proposal, to promote results. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to ask Thomas and Nina again to speak shortly on consortium transparency in the proposal, how much should be clear in terms of formal collaboration already. And then also with the evaluation, maybe if you could just make a point on that, the way that we collect data or like results throughout the project.
Concerning the consortium, it depends really on your project. I mean, we don't have any specific requirement for that. It's really how your project makes sense with specific target groups and how do you want to involve them. I don't have like a definite, I cannot say yes or no on that. It's really like we are open to that and how you want to, I mean, depending on your idea and want to integrate the target groups. I mean, if you want to have like on a continuous basis support from civic society and other CSOs, it makes sense to include them. If you want to reach out to like some hard to reach group and you want to use like some multiplicators as associations, so it makes sense to integrate them. I mean, it's really depending on the nature of your project, I would say.
But can I just add also? I mean, it's always been the same thing when you apply to fundings. You need to make the best to reassure the evaluators. So of course, if you want to do something with a particular minority group, for example, or local authority, or two local authorities, it would be great to have at least the name already and to be able for the jury to say, okay, the local authorities, obvious, there is a local association working with minority rights that would be on board. And they are formally part of your consortium. It's always going to be a better application if you're already able to provide some names than if you just say, here is my idea, and for now I haven't reached out to anyone because I'm waiting to get the funds. It's a riskier bet to do. But it's not impossible. We're not.
Yeah, and then we spoke about it earlier. I mean, you can give a name. You can have like, for instance, an LOE. If you think that there's been a bit more than a name, so if we get like someone who is willing to commit to the process, or you can have it as part of the consortium. So there's different. But I agree with you. I mean, you need to see how you want it, but you need to take the risk in some way if you have some uncertainties, but you still want to apply. And the second point was concerning the risk, the results, the monitoring of the results, or can you during the application, I think we ask a question on the risk mitigation in the application form. So is this what you mean, or do you mean something else?
No. The question, wasn't so much about the risks, but the results indicators and maybe the criteria to assess, the scaling of the innovation and the achievement of results.
Perhaps I can jump in here.
Mhm.
So thank you, Fabien. I hear that you understood that you will be part of a bigger research project. So that's great. At least that message was received. We are currently actually, of course, developing and trying to operationalize a little bit still with our research partner who are not here today. What in terms of variables, the thing that we would be interested in looking at concretely, you are not expected right now in your application to already say in detail the exact variables and data set that you will share. You can give hints, but based on the project that we will select, I mean that the juries will select, that the ScaleDEM project will select, we will need to, of course, do it a bit case by case. Because depend on the scaling innovation, on the scaling dimension, where we will be at with our own research investigation, things might evolve a bit. But generally speaking, it points also to what we will ask of you in terms of reporting. There is going to be some basic reporting that we will need in terms of admin and funding because there's still an AU project, but we will try to keep it minimal and we will focus a little bit more on this kind of more qualitative insights that are much more valuable, I think, both for you and for us. And that is still in development at this stage, so I cannot really say more. Sorry for that.
No,
But
but
you can
that's
hint
very
and
useful.
suggest, but you don't need to develop 10 pages on this in your proposal.
Yes. Okay, that's clear. Yeah.
We've gone through all of the virtual hands, and we have planned for breakout rooms where we can delve more into the two calls, even though we've already sort of started dabbling in the specific calls, I suppose. Could I just get an indication from my colleagues whether the questions in the chat have been answered or whether
I
they're
would suggest, as there are plenty of questions in the chat, and I would suggest maybe you need to tell me if you think it makes sense, but instead of getting into the breakout session, maybe we can or before getting it, maybe we can ask for people who have posted a question in the chat but don't get any answer, they can raise their hand now and ask the question so they can be sure to get an answer because there were too many questions and I'm not sure every question has been answered.
That works for me. Let's go with that. And so I see some new questions coming up. So let's go with that. Fabienne, I suppose your hand. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Alina.
Regarding at the team, your colleague explained that we have to have in the team a person. Sorry, I want to understand. I have partnership as NGO with different, I don't know, local institution, but we can't pay them because the majority don't have hours left for the monthly amount. So they collaborate with us, but we can't pay them. We have a strong partnership with institution in our area, and they support us in everything.
Okay.
We can say name. I say, I don't know, I have 3 cities and I put 3 names of the local institution mayor. It's okay like this?
Well, so if the question is pertaining to resources, I mean, applying as a project, you can come with a budget where uh, hours used would be covered for all partners. Of course, you would have to apply with a project that could then be topped up with the piloting program. So resource cost, like hours spent, can be covered in the program with the right proposal. Then I think if you could elaborate a bit on the question
For
again.
example, if I have a partnership, I have a project,
Mhm.
and you say that we have the representative of a local institution in our project.
Yeah.
But legally, we can't pay them because it's not okay to have mayors on our monthly amount. from the point of view of a legal, or because they say that NGOs is involved political, so it's not okay, and they can't be paid on the projects only if they're projects on the institution, on their institutions. So I can't pay a mayor or somebody from
Okay.
the institution.
I'm a bit unsure about the practicalities of this, if it's a piloting project that you would be applying with. But Camille, do you know how we would work around this for a proposal that's, it doesn't have to go through one organization that can't pay others legally?
Uh, Honestly, I'm not sure. This is a legal question. I don't have right now the answer to that. But Alina, you can write to us. This is a question you can ask using the email, perhaps more than the
Okay.
Send us a question via email, and I will check. And eventually, I need to check out with the commission. But send to the open calls @scaledem.eu.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks for the question. Are there any other questions or people who have asked a question in the chat that would like to ask it out in the plenary? Then you're very welcome to do so.
Is it possible that we manage to keep? I feel like I've been having a Q&A marathon, but
Some of you guys have been sprinting. Thank you for letting me just talk.
There might most likely be still questions coming up, while you work on your proposal. So there are two things that are important. The DOI, we can only strongly recommend you to apply. We are doing our best to really give you kind of qualitative feedback to guide you. In waves, we don't answer every day, but we do it week by week now. But it's open until only the end of this month. So please, we strongly recommend you to take care of that opportunity. And then after that, if you have questions more on, I wouldn't say admin, legal, eligibility, finance, really the filling in of the form or problems with the online form because it's EU survey, it might be tricky. There will always be the email address for that. That we will be monitoring closely until the end of the application period, end of March. So there is some more questions coming. Yeah, there will always be the second online info session, but I fear we might redo this. Might be a bit boring for those of you who were here.
Yeah, I expect some repetition as well on the 29th, but you're still very welcome to join there or tell your colleagues or external partners to join there as well. I also encourage you to, of course, share the call, especially if you're a potential mentee. I would encourage you to reach out to potential mentors that you know in your network, vice versa. If you have a lot of experience with scaling a democratic innovation, and you have and you're in the know of some parts, some organizations that could benefit from what you're doing or have been doing, make sure that this call is being spread out to more people so that we can get a lot of, these different kinds of initiatives. And as you can see, we're working through, proposals in a very qualitative assessment on case by case. So we're really looking forward to being surprised and positively surprised by all of the great ideas that are out there. I'm like, as you may be able to base off of my slow monologue, I'm slowly closing off this meeting because I'm not seeing any more hands. Uh, some of my colleagues are still answering questions in the chat, but we will, of course, update the FAQ.
Yes.
This recording of the meeting will be published as well, so you will be able to revisit it. And then I just want to stress what Camille just said. The declaration of intent is our best way to give you qualitative feedback before you send the actual proposal. And for any technical, administrative questions in general, feel free to send an email to opencalls@scaledem.eu. People are saying thank you, so I think people are agreeing that we should close off just a couple minutes early. Unless there's anything more to add, I think I want to invite everybody to wave goodbye and say thanks for today. And well, I'm really happy that so many people have joined us and have interest in this
Thank you
call.
for
It's a
staying so late.
great privilege to be able to meet all of you guys.
We are looking forward to receiving all this application really from so many countries. That would be really terrific.
All the best to the proposal process. Hope
Have
to
a
see
good
you.
evening. Let that sink.